JANET or something on one of those shows. One of these guys, these kids are so dumb, they don't do their research. They just are skimming to get a little bit of knowledge out there for these shows and then act like they don't know. And it's on the deep files were made public. But I was telling people this for 9 years. Just do your research, and people won't do it, Ken. It's not like, of course, I had to do it my whole life, and I know you did, Richard, and Ken, you did, because we went to libraries, and then you'd go to the local newspapers, and you'd dig up the newspapers. And then I was a gum show, and so was Richard, out in the field. So we know how to go and investigate and sit in cars and watch people and, all that kind of stuff. But I was arson, fraud, subrogation, too. But I'm totally avoiding your question, I noticed, Richard. You're going to have to ask me real different questions because I've got a lot of those individual stories that aren't qualified as top secret because nobody knew about them. So ask me a direct question at what age. But, as a child, there were those come and go ETs that nobody could see, and then after I died, and then with the government, the extraterrestrial psychic abilities, and then when I flew to Grumman, where Ken was, or Ken went up there, and but I saw that some people couldn't remember, like Ken. Now, when I went to Las Vegas, where the Janet Airlines was, and they got me off a plane once, and I was trying to, this guy, a whole bunch of people were trying to get me because I got on Janet Airlines, and it was a real big scandal. Somebody got me out of it, but I don't know who. It was a really big deal in the airport. It was a big scandal. So I guess security, but I don't know who it was. But some people that were wearing white robes and buns on their head, I remember them. But this black guy, and I hate to say of color, but that's how I remember him. So are we allowed to say black, Afro-American on radio? People say black or people of color now. But it was I've always had people that were of color in my life, black people, Afro-Americans. I don't know what the political term is these days. But regarding Richard, the Las Vegas scandal was over the buses or Janet Airlines or people recognizing me coming and going in Las Vegas. But then the thing with Dr. Richard Allen Miller and him and I with Crail was talking in a room with ESP. But what they did, they would take me and use my brain because the ETs liked me. I guess they recruited me for that. I always were, because I was a child, I believed in them. And I really believe you have to be acknowledge life and death and not be fearful of people that don't look like us. And they groom you for that, or either you die. I think me dying 2 or 3 times and coming back is a big part of what why they used me. I don't know. At 8, 16, and let's see, the next time was when I died with Gigi. And I came back. I always lose my blood. I lost all my blood then, and my stepfather had to give me blood. But then how did I make it to Vegas? Okay, I'd already gone. They recruited me again in uniform. I was recruited in 1967. I was taken to work on the Roswell case with Jesse Marcel Sr. and Stanton T. Friedman. And so the Navy got me and took me to Balboa Hospital, checked me in there, gave me an HM3 as Thurmond, HM3. Then I went up to China Lake, all up and down the coast in California, doing ESP stuff, California. And the ETs wouldn't let me. They'd fly over us and stuff and follow us, but they wouldn't let us take their pictures. I tried. They wouldn't let me. So I was used in a capacity like Richard Allen Miller, training people and then working Marine SEAL teams like he did. You train the recruit people coming in that have abilities. Project Pegasus, which Ken and Andrew Bashago talk about, because they were involved in that. But what happens is they will take you and use you and return you back. Now, another part of it I don't understand, Richard, is some people at the casino, because I was playing with Red Fox poker, and he liked me. And I was like, how do I know Red Fox? And Red, he just laughed. So there was important people involved with extraterrestrials, including Red Fox and the casinos, but they would have the men in black take me and put me at a casino, and I would do poker, run up a lot of money, and they'd sit me down, and I could do it with my mind, and they would show people, you know, how you could 12, 24, 36, 72, 135, and you just run it all up. And then they'd start switching casino people. When I'd get to the $500 or $1,000 chips, especially at Caesars or somewhere, they would every 5 minutes or 10 minutes. I was making so much money, they were flipping out the dealers to see if that would mess my brain up. So it was like when you're a golfer and you're in a zone. You know what the zone is? So apparently, I don't know who was testing me, but it had to do with extraterrestrial, your mind, and how we work for the government in and out. But I don't know who actually the government contract, because the intelligence community changed. Everything changed over 50 years. So we went from Yvonne McCutcheon's ACIR, NASA, to, let's see, ACIR. Then the Men in Black came and talked to me when I was with ACIR, Arson Fraud Certificate. I hadn't gone out of country yet. Then they put me out of country. Then they brought me in country. And then the Reagan thing happened. And then they wanted me to see what they could do. So they showed me the Reagan thing. And then the Reagan thing happened. Then Tom, my husband, worked for Reagan. And we both got together, but we repelled each other. Something about, like me and Ken, you know how me and you and him were together, but Andy wouldn't be in the same room with you and me? You don't remember that?
I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I remember that.
It's come back because you didn't remember it for a long time. So that's coming back to you?
Yes, it is. And that was the dinner we were having there.
And now, see, Richard, I don't know who does where your brain won't remember, because they say you don't have memory in your mind or in your brain. So it's all out in the universe and around you. And then we have this aura 6 feet around us, right? And so it's, you know what I'm talking about, Richard? It's like reading the Akashic field.
I know that the government uses a serum, okay? There's a serum that the government uses that will actually block receptors in the mind that allows you to have memory, okay? I do know that for a fact. So the government has a serum that can erase memory. Now, as far as ETs are concerned, I'm not sure if they're using an energy device or exactly what, but they too have the ability to erase memory per se. But let me just kind of encapsulate what you've shared with us, if I may. So
sure.
Basically your experiences have been where you've had direct contact as a child, where you were basically being teleported, similar to experiences that Ken and I have both had, where you're kind of teleported mentally while your body is at rest. You're up somewhere else on a ship or else in a different civilization on a planet somewhere else, and you're interacting with these other beings. And then, of course, naturally you find yourself back in bed, and sometimes you remember what's happened, and sometimes you only have vague memory of what's happened. Now, other than that, there was an incident, of course, where you did, in fact, see a UFO. I'm not sure how far away you were, because you were mentioning that about White Sands. And then in turn, you would have to say that there's been a constant contact for many, many years throughout your life between what you're describing as Men in Black, which I'm going to presume were agents of the government who basically were nondescript, and you didn't know who they were working for or who they were working with or anything else, because they gave you no description of any kind. Rather, in turn, they utilized your abilities by bringing you into specific situations at particular locations. And then, in turn, there may have been some kind of ET influence as well that was involved, because your abilities were enhanced at specific places for specific reasons, because you keep referring to the Men in Black. Now, of course, from my perspective, the Men in Black, there are actually two descriptions of them, I guess you could say, one of them being government and those being actually ETs that are, again, appearing to be dressed very dark, and they come into situations sometimes that are drastic, such as a life about to be lost, or sometimes an accident about to be happening, or these kind of things, and they interact and they modify things so that what's happened is more or less undone. Then there were also instances where you were actually teleported from one place to another, and yet at the same time, while this teleportation happened, with whatever you were doing where it was that you were teleported, you in turn were teleported back to where you had been. So it was like, you see, that's another thing that they utilize, is the area that we question ourselves, because we have to question, well, was that really real, and did that actually happen, or did I only experience it in my mind, and it's not really physically real at all? Because
there's no lost time.
Yeah, that's the significant thing.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, you're on the right track. No, that's why I think you need to write the book and listen back to this recording for Ken and I. And you just write it. If you want to call yourself a ghostwriter or the editor or the third person, or Ken, you don't care, do you? But you and I need his help. So does Andrew Bashago. But Andrew would have to give it up, because, see, I don't mind working with Andy, but Andy repelled like my husband. It took me 5 years to get with Tom, and I don't have 5 years. And Andy met me 2017 and hadn't had anything to do with me since, because I showed him my Pegasus, and he knew I worked his Pegasus, right? He had a Pegasus. Just so you know, Richard, that's why I need your help to write this book with Ken, because who doesn't like Andy Bashago? God, the whole world loves Andy. But Andy was trying to tell what was going on with him and his dad, and he made it on television, just so you know, on that guy in Minnesota that ran for governor, but I can't remember. I think he was some kind of wrestler and a Marine or something, or a Navy something. Ken, what was that guy's name in Minnesota?
I'm a total blank, sorry.
Yeah, me too. Well, anyway, Richard, we've forgotten more than we can remember, but I think we can give you enough to write a decent first book, so we can put some money into our nonprofit, or at least get the show going. You know.
Maybe all three of us can get together with Andy and Richard and you and myself, or all four of us, or 1, 2, 3, 4, four of us, and that way we just knock it out real quick and just, record what we're all saying, and then have it all teletyped up, and then massage it a little bit, and you've got a whole story right there.
Yeah, let's. If Andy, but you got to explain to Andy it's not his fault. As brilliant as he is, he doesn't understand how his dad was a contractor for the government, we'll just say. And I worked, and when you and I both were to Grumman, and we were getting along really good, and I gave you my skull and bones ring to remember you, and you don't even remember what you did with that, right?
No.
But you got it, I think, in your jewelry box. But anyway.
Go ahead, and I'll check and see.
Well, Richard, write down May 10th, 1967. And then write down when Ken and I met the second time, May 10th, 2017. Now, when he and I met, they brought Andy because Andy was running for president, and Louis Reinhardt